Hi everyone, it's Gary Cassidy here from Sportskeeda Wrestling. I've had some great guests recently, but they're definitely not stopping anytime soon. I've got a man here that I would say is probably one of the most exciting wrestlers to watch on the planet. Not only that, he's also pretty good to listen to, which we'll get into. How's it going today, Leo?
What's going on, man? How you doing? I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not too bad, man. Never bad when you're talking to someone like yourself, so can't complain. The pretty cool thing about this, last time we spoke, I believe it was a couple of days, it was 2 or 3 days after the release of Scenic Lullaby, which I believe was your first ever single. Now we're about a day away from your first ever album being released. Man, what a journey. You seemed really excited about Scenic Lullaby when it first came out. You were talking about, you really wanted to make more music, all this kind of thing. How did we get from that to where we are now, where Ever After is coming out this week?
Yeah, man. I first starting out and doing Scenic Lullaby, I was really excited. I was really excited because this was my first single, like you said, and it was something new that I was wanting to, dip my toes into. And luckily, the fans, they enjoyed it. They liked it. They respected the fact that, I stepped out of my comfort zone out of my comfort zone to other people. But, this was something that I've always wanted to do. And now, the comparison to Ever After, back then the Scenic Lullaby was my first single, and now I'm about to release my first album. And it is such a cool feeling, seeing where I came from with Scenic Lullaby and all the way until now, my very first album, and not only my first album, but my first major project since my WWE release. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get into a little bit more about the wrestling in a bit. But the one thing that I need to ask, for me, I know last time we spoke a lot, you said that you loved poetry, and that, I think, came through in quite a few of the tracks. But the thing for me, I think your music is incredibly versatile. I don't know how I'd explain it to someone, because I'm like, man, if you like hip-hop music, you're probably going to like it. But even if you just like poetry and spoken word, you're probably going to like it. What would you say Ever After is like? If you were to explain that to someone, how would you explain Ever After?
I think the same way. I'm inspired and influenced by so many different styles and genres and stuff like that, and different artists. And I try to tie all of my inspirations into, the style that I like doing. I think Ever After is pretty special because I definitely do think it touches on different styles, different genres. Ever After is a concept album, so there's going to be a similar theme and a story to follow throughout the album. But I feel like Ever After is going to be a new side of me, a vulnerable layer of me that people haven't heard or seen yet. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think that's something that I think came through when I was listening to you, the first couple of songs. I was like, man, it seems like there is a vulnerability there. And it's nice. It's nice and endearing for, people we don't normally see a vulnerable side of. It's nice to see the human aspect. Obviously, we're going to talk a wee bit more about music and wrestling later on. For me, I think the best thing is that, the music was always separate from the wrestling. It seems like a completely different project. I'm going to throw that out the window right now. I want to ask you, if you were to ever do a duet with any other wrestler, who would you pick?
With another wrestler, I mean, I guess there's not many out there, but I mean, the one that comes to mind that seems like is pretty hot, with as far as people liking and respecting what he's doing as far as music is R-Truth, Ron Killings. That's the only one that I can think of because he's really active, and I would count, Josiah Williams, Wrestling Flow, but he's not a wrestler. So, yeah.
We can use him as a little cheat answer, but man, I would be down for an R-Truth Lio Rush duet. That would be incredible. One thing that I definitely need to address, you put out a little tweet that garnered a little bit of, I wouldn't say controversy, but a lot of people were like, man, last week when you said, I may never wrestle again. How truthful was that? Was it something that you were just really into the music and that's where it came out of? Or is there honesty behind it? What was the thinking behind it?
I think it was both. I knew that, this album was coming out, I know that, I'm going to continue to pursue music and stuff like that. So in that sense, I'm thinking, man, I'm doing so much with music. This is a passion of mine. I just might not step into the ring again, just off of that tip. But there's also another, layer of that tweet where it is a real pretty situation, or a pretty real situation, excuse me. Because, before the release, I always, told myself, and I would talk to my family members and friends inside and outside of the business. And I would just say, I have a feeling, like a gut feeling, that I'm not going to be in the world of wrestling anymore. Obviously, the memories and the mark that I left on wrestling will stay there. But me physically being a part of the wrestling business might disappear sooner than later. And yeah, I don't know what it was, but even after the release, it just made me think about it even more. There's just a lot of things that I've gone through in the wrestling business that I feel like have traumatized me in a way. And that has just been pretty disappointing, looking at, me as a kid and wanting to do this, and just seeing the bright lights and the action and the daredevil stunts and stuff like that, to me becoming one of the people in the business doing all the action. But, I didn't realize as a kid all of the stuff that came with that, backstage, like the politics and all of the, excuse my language, but that goes on in wrestling. And it just, I took a lot of time out of my personal life to invest into, wrestling. And I feel like it definitely caught up with me. And now that I have this opportunity to be home with my family and focus on myself and, my relationships and my music, I'm just happy right now. And, why would I put myself back in a position where, I didn't have control over a lot of things, and I was frustrated and angry and confused? Why put myself back in that position when I can be over here and be happy and stay happy?
Yeah, as well, it's not a bad position to be in if you're really good at more than one thing, and it means you've got the options to if you don't feel one thing, you can just go a complete other direction. But what you were saying there about not feeling kind of, not that you weren't feeling fulfilled, but the stuff that came with the good stuff in wrestling. When we spoke last time, you were on a kind of brief, we'll say, hiatus from WWE. You weren't on television. From that, it was like you ended up back on, not just back on television, you ended up with a championship, which I think, a lot of people maybe wouldn't have seen coming if they'd have read everything that, people were putting out there about what was going on. Was that a surprise to you when you actually managed to get back on, not just on television, but you were a very featured person in WWE and on NXT for a few months?
Yeah, I think so. Just because, when I took that hiatus from the company, I thought that they were done with me. During that entire time period when I was home, which was, the 6 months, I didn't hear a single word from the company. There was no urge to reach out to me to see how I was doing, how my family was doing. There was no urge to, keep me updated on what my wrestling career or was going to be, So I moved on with life. I moved on with everything. I came to the conclusion, or better yet, I realized and I accepted the situation for what it was. And I just told my family that it was time to move on. And then, I was in California because I was looking at some property there because I was going to move to California. And while I was out there, I got a call from Hunter saying that he wanted to bring me back, but this time for NXT, because they were going to, relaunch the whole brand on the USA Network. And he thought that my past exposure on USA Network could help NXT with their exposure on the USA Network. So it definitely came as a surprise to me. I think the thing that became a surprise to me was me being called back to NXT But once I was there, I don't think that it was a surprise to me that I won the championship, because I feel like, you know, I've worked my ass off to earn it. I feel like you know, I earned the spot of being, you know, the face of the cruiserweight division, just because of everything that you know that I've done and sacrificed, and the time, effort, and hard work that I put in to invest in myself, to show people that, you know, not only am I the best, or think or believe that I'm the best in the world at this, but that I can, you know, be a face of a division and of a brand. So yeah, I don't think me winning the championship came as a surprise to me, because I knew that I was going to work my ass off to get it.
Yeah, I think that was the best thing, was that it was like, you know, when I seen that you were back, I was like, oh, it's a little bit surprising, just because of how you were feeling when you spoke to me the time before. But when I seen that you were put, you know, that spotlight was on you, I was like, well, he's obviously going to make people realise why he's back, because, you know, you'd kind of shown that anyway. So it was brilliant to see. Another thing that, you know, this is a kind of bittersweet thing that I really liked seeing, it was when those releases happened and you put out a statement, a really nice, heartfelt statement. And for me, it was just like, when I read it, I was like, that is a real sign of maturity. That, you know, a lot of people, if you'd have read some of the stuff that, you know, was being said online 6 months previous, people might not have expected that kind of statement to come out. How did, you know, what did you think when you were typing that and when you put it out about the people being released? Did you know yourself that you were one of them? And, you know, what was the mentality of you putting out that tweet about everything's going to be okay?
Yeah, I think I heard what was going to happen that day, you know, via different media outlets. And I knew that it had to be true. It had to be true. If it was getting covered this much by mainstream news sites, then it had to be true. So in my head, I knew that regardless of, you know, if I was going to be a part of it or not, it was going to be a very shitty situation, and it was going to be messed up, and it was going to be disappointing for a lot of people. So I just figured that I'll put out something to let everybody know that I know that all of us are going through a hard time in life right now with the world pandemic going on. But at the end of the day, you know, if you end up losing your job, just know that the wrestling world is an entire family, and that, you know, you're going to be okay. We're all going to be okay, because we're all looking out for each other. So I was just trying to lighten up the mood a little bit to you know, tell people that, you know, I know something bad is about to happen, but just know at the end of it, you know, me included, I got your back. So, but to answer your other question, I had a feeling that I was going to be one of the people, just because of the lack of communication between me and WWE management, you know, weeks before. So once I saw the news, I ended up calling the head of talent relations, which is Mark Carano, and I just asked him straight up. I said, I'm seeing a whole bunch of stuff online about people are going to get released today, and I know it's true. So before I hear about it online, can you just tell me if I'm going to be one of these people released today? And he said he was going to call me in a few minutes, but yes, you are one of those people who are going to be released today. And, you know, I didn't even question it. I didn't ask why. I didn't really say anything. I just said, okay, thank you. And I just kept it moving. And then, you know, a couple of hours later, the news broke, and I was a part of that first group of people who got released.
Yeah, that's. I'm going to get into some more lighter stuff just after. I've got one last question before we bring it back up again. For me, I think, like, I don't know how you feel about it, but my favourite thing about the fact that you got released this time round, if you can have a favourite thing about someone being released, it's the fact that you didn't get released 6 months ago, and you got that chance to have the platform and you know, do all the stuff that you done in NXT. You mentioned earlier Triple H was the person that called you back to get you back on television, essentially. Before that, there was a lot of talk of, you having backstage heat. It's always my favourite term that everyone uses, backstage heat, from people that normally don't know anything about what's going on backstage. Right now, where are you with, Triple H and Vince McMahon? Did it end on good terms, or is there sourness there?
I really don't know. I have no idea. I mean, that first hiatus that I had from the company, I was dealing with Vince, and yeah, he had said that he was going to reach out to me at some point, during my time home, but I just never got a call from anybody or heard anything from anybody. So I was dealing with Vince at that point. But then once I came back to the company and I started to wrestle for 205 Live again, being at the same tapings as Friday Night SmackDown on Fox, I saw Vince. I would see Vince all the time, and he would say, hey, good to see you. Hope you're doing okay, and stuff like that. So it felt like, even though he didn't reach back out to me after the initial hiatus, I felt like he still acknowledged me. He still acknowledged, the fact that I was away and now I'm back. So that was a good feeling to have, from the boss. But Triple H, I don't know if it ended on good terms or not, because I feel like me and Hunter, we clashed heads a lot. We were always in disagreement as far as, what the plan was for me and, how he saw me, as a character, or how he saw me as an asset to, the brand. I feel like we were just always disagreeing all the time. And it sucked because, obviously, like, I looked up to Triple H, as a kid and stuff like that. So it was weird to try to break that separation from being, an admirer of his. Yeah. But now at the same time, I'm an employee of his and he's my boss. So it was hard for me to separate the two. And it was kind of disappointing every time I had a conversation with him. But the lack of communication leading up to the initial release was with Hunter. I was having like some back and forth conversations with him, and then out of nowhere it just kind of stopped for weeks. It just stopped, and that's how I knew that something was weird, something wasn't right, and I felt like it was coming. My release was coming.
Yeah. One thing, one person that's still in WWE that I definitely need to ask you about, that I think you've got some positive things to say about. Last time we spoke, I'd asked you about the stuff you'd been doing with Bobby Lashley. And then since then, I've actually had the chance to interview Bobby Lashley, which was great. And I asked him, what's been your highlight of your most recent run in WWE? And he said the stuff with you. What is your thoughts on Bobby Lashley, what he's doing just now, and just him as a person?
I think he's incredible, man. He's a living legend. Everything that I said about him in my promos is true, dude. Like, he's awesome. Maybe not the smell like money part, because he was always like sweaty from all the matches. But it's pretty funny. But yeah, he's awesome, and he taught me a lot while I was with him. With that run on Monday Night Raw, and just overall a good dude. A family man. And yeah, a lot of respect, a lot of mutual respect between the both of us, just because, we both went into a situation. We didn't really know the direction. We didn't know the creative for it. And we went out there every week, like on a limb and kind of did everything on the fly just to see what stuck. And it was really cool. A lot of people reacted very positively towards all the stuff that we were doing, and that's because me and Bobby would sit down and we would talk and brainstorm ideas, and a really good dude. I'm not sure what he's doing now, because obviously since the release I haven't really been involved with WWE or have been wanting to see the product itself, but I'm sure whatever he's doing right now, he's giving it his all 100%. And, you know, he's going to land on his feet. If he's not on his feet now, he will be.
Yeah, definitely, man. And I know, you know, you'd kind of said there was some things that weren't so positive about your run there. I'd guess the Bobby Lashley stuff was a positive bit, and I guess, you know, the Cruiserweight Championship was. How do you look back at your run overall? You know, as a chapter of your life, how do you look back at the WWE run? Is it with fondness? Is it with regret in any way? Or is it something that, you know, was just what it was?
No, man, no regret whatsoever. You know, I feel like through it all, I've stayed true to myself. I've been honest. I've been, you know, I've showed people the real, the real me. Off screen. I did my job on screen, which was awesome. You know, I did my job. I can truly say that I did my job and I tried my best, and my best was enough. Enough to get me over, but not enough to put me and keep me in the company, obviously. But yeah, I feel good about the whole thing, man. I feel like I accomplished so much in, you know, the short 3 years that I've been there. A lot of that are things that, you know, people 10, 15 plus years in the company haven't even reached yet. So I feel like I did my job. I feel like I accomplished something. I feel like I've, you know, carved my name in the WWE history books, and it's never coming out. So yeah, I feel good about it, man. I honestly, you know, I got to win my championship. I got to be a manager. I got to be on commentary. I got to be at the Royal Rumble. I got to be at WrestleMania, NXT, 205 Live, Mixed Match Challenge, Monday Night Raw. I got to invade Friday Night SmackDown on a DX tank. Like, I got to, you know, have the first NXT victory, the first point in the Survivor Series standoff. So, man, I did everything, and I'm glad. I'm glad.
Man, that's more than some people doing an entire career in wrestling just in the space of 3 years. I've only got 2 questions left. One's music related, one's wrestling related. For you, you know, Ever After just about to come out. What would you see as success for Ever After? What's your plan for, you know, if you were to look back in a couple of years' time and say, oh man, Ever After was great because this happened, what would be the thing that happened to make it great?
The Ever After specifically?
Yeah.
I think...
Or your music career, either way.
I think, like how I said, like I touched on the subject before, but I really tried to focus on my vulnerability with this album. And, you know, it doesn't get any more vulnerable than now, you know, with the position that I'm in, the story that I'm telling with the album, with my love life and stuff like that. So I definitely think that this is something that's going to be really special.
Yeah, definitely. And then one last question. You obviously kind of said that wrestling isn't really in your mind right now. It's mainly the music. Is there anywhere wrestling-wise that you've got your eye on that you would like to compete in before you hang up the boots, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a really tough question. I think that just goes back to my tweet. You know, it's going to take a lot for me to, you know, just put myself back in that situation, and not even just financially. So, yeah, I think I'm going to have to cross that bridge when I get to it.
Definitely, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And just like last time, it was an absolute honour to speak to you, and a lovely little chat from me. So thank you so much.
Yes, you too, man. Appreciate you.
Excellent, man. Thank you.
All right, my man.